company, tour operator, so it gave me kind of my first foray into the world outside of the U.S. And a lot of that was driven by my interest in cross-cultural understanding, international business, really trying to help understand different cultures and help particularly, I think, Americans understand cultures outside of the U.S. What we didn't have a name for it at the time. Now it's called diversity. And it's interesting because it was really not that deliberate or well thought out. I mean, you know, this was still a very new area, and it's interesting how from that job that I had first working in a tour company, doing marketing, moving into, and falling into literally the job that I have now, which is doing a number of different things, mainly program development, fundraising, and a number of other things. And a lot of it came about mainly because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something like Glenn said, you know, something that is going to make a difference in people's lives. And so when Glenn talks about what CHL is about, it's something that really resonates with me, because I think what I was attracted to LEAP about was the fact that I thought, well, if I go to LEAP, then maybe some of that leadership development, leadership, you know, kind of skills and characteristics and abilities will rub off on me. 18 years later, I think I'm still trying to figure that out sometimes, but at the same time, I'm also trying to do the same for other people and help them find that path, find that inspiration, find that hope. And that's why for me, I think the opportunity to be here and to be affiliated and working with CHL is very much one in which I think we have a lot of alignment. So that's my background.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to have a roundtable style format this morning, and we're going to talk, first up, just going to be women in corporate America. This is, I think, a very hot topic among university executives and as well women professionals. One of the things that I was drawn to IBM when I joined them back in 1997 was Abby Constant was the first female executive to break the glass ceiling in corporate America. And there was a lot of tensions at IBM because she was not considered true blue, meaning she did not have a full career at IBM. She was a professional hire. So I was concerned for myself because I too was a professional hire as well. So I was like, okay, what happens to me now as well? But Abby and Gerstner changed the trend. They really focused on breaking that glass ceiling, making an example. And since then, we've seen other corporations hire CEOs in that capacity. So I'm going to ask the panelists here to give me their perspective about women in corporate America, breaking the glass ceiling, women in the boardroom, and also want you to focus on whether Asian, Black, and Hispanic women are taking advantage of this new trend, and what are some of these changes we can see in the next 5 years. So Andrea, you want to kick it off?
Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, I don't have quite the view breadth that my colleagues have on this panel, because I've basically lived my whole adult working life in Toyota, right? So I can really only speak to what's gone on there and what I've witnessed. Unfortunately, I have been there for a rather long time, and so I've watched a lot of changes being made in the organization. And I would have to say that women have really started their march up in the Toyota organization. They actually, I started to see real headway being made probably, and I have some of my colleagues here today. If anybody remembers when Diane Ogilvy was promoted to vice president, she was the first vice president in the organization. I'm thinking it was 12 years ago about. And after that, sort of like that was the breaking of the ceiling, and then after her came several other women. In the upper executive ranks, we still are very lacking when it comes to African American and Hispanic women. We do have several Asian women who are closing that ceiling. So I think there's still work to be done, but I do see progress, and you know, if I can just see that the ball is still moving forward, it still gives me hope and inspiration that things will continue to improve.
Yeah,
I was going to say that one of the things that I saw that General Mills did real well in the 10 years I was there, today they have actually 50% of their upper management is women. And they're probably one of the best in class out there. And one of the reasons they are is because they really worked on developing that employee network of women, which really developed a mentoring program for them. But then they also developed a co-mentoring program, which was really the executives were mentoring down, and then the women were mentoring up. And they were talking about what it is to be a woman in this field, talking to the vice presidents. And today, in the total population of General Mills, they're hiring more women than men now in the total population across the whole corporation. When you look at minorities as a whole, and you include women in that whole, I mean, women have actually done better than most minorities in all corporations. But the key is, I think, it's mentorship, and it's developing a process of saying, how can we increase that? But it's not just women mentoring women, it's upper management mentoring women. Now you use that same role for Hispanics and African Americans, and that creates the bigger challenge I think we still have over America.
So it's the empowerment that.
Right, it's the empowerment.
And I would say I definitely agree with what Isaiah said, especially when it comes to inclusive mentoring. You know, we can learn from everyone, and you need to be mentored by the majority as well. Those who are part of the inner circle to understand that system and that network. I can give you perspective. I worked at Deloitte, and many people are familiar with the Women's Initiative. Great deal of work done there. But what you often see, not just at Deloitte, but many companies, are women in the back office. Women may be getting to the top, but they tend to be support back office positions. And I think that one of the things that needs to change is for people, doors to be open for people to go on the revenue generating side, because that is the line to the CEO. Those are the people who tend to get on the board of director positions. You know, not to say there's anything wrong with HR diversity, right? You know, or people in those back office roles, but as we are trying to grow CEOs, we need to understand that career path. And what that means for all of this is to understand that we may have to be the pioneer. There may not be role models in those business lines. You might not have someone who looks like you, but you also need to be open to the similarities. You will find people who value what you value. You need to, you know, make sure that you connect with folks based upon other similarities to allow yourself to grow. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, you might not be the pioneer, you might be the pioneer with your shade, you know, whatever race or gender you are, but not in totality. And so, you know, Union Bank perspective is a little different. About 1/3 of our board of directors are women and people of color. We have Aida Alvarez, who's the first Latina appointed presidential person who ran the SBA. And our executive leadership on our top 15, we have a woman who's actually managing a revenue generating side of the business. How did she get there? A lot of hard work, but she also created her own job. And that's the other thing that I think we need to be mindful of. We all know we're going to have multiple careers throughout our lifetime. She created an opportunity. She was proactive, and not just a pioneer in knowing that she was the only woman, but that she saw an opportunity for a new business model for the bank, proposed that, and it allowed her to create a segment that helped her actually rise to the top. When you ask the question about women of color, you know, that's how we have to look at it. In my opinion, is look at the similarities so that we can be included in that network and not exclude ourselves unintentionally.
Any other thoughts?
Go ahead.
All right. I was just writing down some notes based on what I was hearing, and I think I want to just kind of maybe not say statements per se as much as maybe I want to throw out some questions or challenges for you all to think about in terms of maybe some future conversations or conversations during the rest of the day, because I don't think there's any real answers to this yet. One is, I think it's interesting when you start looking at it, it's always kind of interesting to me that I think over the last couple years there's been this conversation about